The Nevada desert blazed crimson and gold as the setting sun illuminated the bullet-riddled walls of the Callaway Ranch, casting long shadows across the body of a man who had severely underestimated his prey. Sophia Callaway stood amid the dusty yard of her ranch, the twin Sig Sauer pistols still warm in her hands, watching the last vehicle of the retreating outlaws disappear in a cloud of desert dust. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. At 36, she had already endured more violence and loss than most people would face in a lifetime. The war had taken her husband, and now these men had tried to take her home. But what the band of criminals who attacked her isolated ranch didn't know, what no one in Coyote Springs understood, was that Sophia Callaway hadn't always been just a rancher's wife. She had once been Captain Sophia Reynolds, Special Forces combat medic and close-quarters combat instructor, one of the most decorated female operators in her unit's history. The pistols that hung at her sides weren't just for show. They were extensions of her being, tools she had mastered through thousands of hours of training and real-world application in some of the most dangerous places on Earth. Coyote Springs, sprawled across the high desert landscape of northern Nevada, its scattered ranches and small-town center dwarfed by the towering Sierra Nevada mountains to the west. Miles of sagebrush stretched between properties, creating an isolation that most residents cherished. Summer was giving way to fall, the punishing heat gradually yielding to crisp mornings and cool evenings as Sophia surveyed what remained of her front porch, splintered by gunfire during the attack. The raid had come just after dawn. 5 riders, roaring up her long drive on dirt bikes and ATVs, firing wildly into the air and demanding she vacate the property immediately. They claimed to represent Desert Vista Development Corporation, saying her land was now theirs and she had 24 hours to clear out. They'd thought her an easy mark, a widow alone on 200 acres of increasingly valuable land. Their mistake had cost one man a bullet in his shoulder today, but Sophia knew this was just the opening move in a dangerous game. Ms. Callaway, the voice, belonged to Miguel Reyes, a 17-year-old from town who helped around the ranch when school was out. He came running from the direction of the barn, his lean face flushed with exertion. "Sheriff's coming. Saw his cruiser turn onto your road, about 2 miles back." Sophia nodded, her weathered face betraying nothing of the tactical assessments running through her mind. She holstered her pistols beneath her worn denim jacket. Miguel didn't question why the quiet widow suddenly carried military-grade weapons, or why she hadn't seemed frightened when armed men threatened her life. The boy was observant but discreet, a quality Sophia deeply appreciated. Sheriff Doug Harmon arrived in a cloud of dust, his department SUV bouncing over the rutted drive. He was a heavy-set man whose once powerful build had softened with age and a fondness for the beer served at the Dusty Boot, Coyote Springs' only bar. He stepped from his vehicle with a grimace, adjusting his gun belt as he surveyed the bullet holes peppering Sophia's ranch house. "Hell of a situation, Sophia," he said, removing his sunglasses. "Miguel's father called it in. Any idea who'd be stupid enough to shoot up your place in broad daylight?" Sophia studied the sheriff carefully. Doug Harmon had been cordial to her since she'd moved to the ranch with her husband Ryan 6 years ago, but after Ryan's death in Afghanistan 2 years back, the sheriff's demeanor had subtly shifted. His condolences had quickly turned to suggestions that she sell the struggling ranch and move somewhere more suitable for a woman alone. "They said they represented Desert Vista Development," she replied evenly. 5 men on off-road vehicles. They fired into my house, told me the land was theirs now and that I had 24 hours to clear out. One was wounded when they left. Something flickered across Harmon's face, surprise perhaps, or concern. Sophia noted the reaction, another data point to analyze later. "Wounded?" he asked carefully. "You shot one of them. After they fired into my home and threatened my life, Sophia stated flatly. I keep a rifle for predators, Sheriff. Sometimes those predators walk on two legs, the sheriff wrote in his notebook, avoiding her eyes. Desert Vista, you said? That new resort developer buying land around the valley? I can't imagine a legitimate business using those tactics. One of the ranch hands who had come with the sheriff stepped forward, Elena Vasquez, whose family ran the local grocery. Unlike the sheriff, Elena met Sophia's gaze directly. They've been buying up properties all through the valley, Sophia. She said, folks who refuse their offers have been having incidents. The Martinez place had a mysterious fire last month right after they declined an offer from Desert Vista. Sheriff Harmon shot Elena a warning look, but the woman stood her ground. She deserves to know what she's up against, Doug. I'm simply suggesting, the sheriff said, his tone indicating that a woman alone might be better off taking the money, that your ranch is going to be worth a lot less once the resort decides on a different location for their golf course. Sophia said nothing, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. In her military training, she had learned that technique could be more effective than direct questioning. People feel compelled to fill a silence, often revealing more than they intend. Finally, she spoke. Ryan believed this land was worth fighting for, Sheriff. I won't dishonor his memory by abandoning it at the first sign of trouble. Harmon sighed, clearly having expected this response. At least consider letting me post a deputy out here for a few days. These developers usually back off when they see law enforcement involved. That won't be necessary, Sophia interrupted. Miguel and my other hands can keep watch. What Sophia didn't mention was that she needed no protection. 8 years in Special Forces, 2 years running the ranch alone after Ryan's death. These were merely the most recent chapters of her life. Few in Coyote Springs knew anything about the first 34 years, when she was Sophia Reynolds, the daughter of a Marine Corps drill instructor who had taught her to shoot before she could drive, a combat medic who had saved dozens of lives under heavy fire, and a close-quarters combat specialist who had trained hundreds of operators in lethal efficiency. After the men left, Sophia walked the boundaries of her property as the day's light faded. The 200-acre ranch sat at the convergence of 2 seasonal streams that formed a year-round water source in this arid region, precisely why Desert Vista wanted it so badly. Their planned resort required reliable water access for the golf courses and luxury accommodations, and Sophia's water rights were senior to most in the valley. Ryan had understood this value when he purchased the property 7 years earlier, long before developers had set their sights on Coyote Springs. As darkness settled over the desert, Sophia returned to the ranch house. It was a sturdy single-story structure of stone and timber that Ryan had renovated himself, using techniques he'd learned growing up on his family's Montana ranch. She lit the lamps and moved toward the back of the house, to a door that appeared to lead to a utility room. The reinforced door opened to reveal concrete steps descending into darkness. Sophia took a battery-powered lantern and made her way down, the familiar smell of gun oil and canvas greeting her. The underground room looked untouched, just as she and Ryan had left it before his final deployment 2 years ago. The room extended beyond what anyone visiting the ranch might suspect. One section contained preserved food and emergency supplies, a genuine survival bunker, but behind a false wall lay their true preparation for uncertain times. Sophia slid aside the concealed panel, revealing an armory that would have impressed even her former commanding officers. Military-grade weapons lined one wall, from compact PDWs to precision rifles. A glass-fronted cabinet held an assortment of handguns, pistols, revolvers, and specialty firearms designed for concealment. Cases of ammunition were neatly arranged on shelves alongside medical supplies, tactical gear, and communications equipment. But it wasn't the weapons themselves that made this collection remarkable. It was the meticulous preparation behind it. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us now. Back to the story. Ryan Calloway had been more than a rancher. He had been a special forces operator specializing in unconventional warfare. After multiple combat deployments and the physical toll they had taken, he had sought a quieter life. The ranch represented their shared dream of peace, but they had prepared for all contingencies. Beside the weapons stood a bookcase containing volumes on tactical operations, wilderness survival, battlefield medicine, and counterinsurgency techniques. Interspersed among these were journals, dozens of them, filled with Ryan's notes on security preparations, tactical scenarios, and defense plans specifically tailored to their property. Sophia pulled one from the shelf, opening it to a page. Marked with a fabric bookmark, the diagram showed fields of fire from various defensive positions around the ranch house, with notes on cover, concealment, and response options. Ryan's precise handwriting detailed different scenarios and appropriate reactions based on threat levels. Sophia ran her fingers over the page, remembering the evening spent with him at the kitchen table, developing these plans together, her medical expertise complementing his tactical knowledge. They had been partners in every sense, their military backgrounds creating a shared language and understanding that most couples never experienced. Desert Vista couldn't have known about this room, about the preparations it contained. They saw only a widow struggling to maintain a ranch, not a woman who had treated horrific combat wounds while under enemy fire, not someone who had qualified, expert on every weapon system available to special operations personnel, not an operator who had moved undetected through hostile territory on missions that would never appear in any public record. Sophia replaced the journal and moved to a trunk. In the corner, the biometric lock opened with her fingerprint, revealing the past she rarely acknowledged. Inside lay her own legacy, the custom medical kit she had carried through 3 combat tours, the sidearm that had saved her life more than once, and a folded document she hadn't looked at in years. She opened it carefully, revealing a faded citation bearing the seal of the United States Army, a Silver Star commendation for valor under fire during a mission gone wrong in a country never officially acknowledged. Ryan had received the same award for that operation. It was where they had first met, in the chaotic aftermath of an ambush that had left half their team wounded. Sophia refolded the citation and placed it back in the trunk. She had honored his desire for a peaceful life, keeping her own combat skills sharp but private during their marriage. Even after his death, she had maintained the pretense of being simply a rancher's widow, revealing nothing of her capabilities or past. That pretense ended today. From the trunk, she withdrew a satellite phone that couldn't be tracked through conventional means. The development company's brazen attack required a response, but she needed information first. A quick series of text messages to former colleagues, still in the intelligence community, would start the process. By morning, she would know exactly who was behind Desert Vista development, what resources they commanded, and where their vulnerabilities lay. Sophia closed the trunk and stood, her decision made. She would not be driven from her land, not by threats, not by violence, not by men who thought a woman alone would be easily intimidated. Desert Vista and whoever was acting on their behalf were about to learn a costly lesson about underestimating their opponent. As she prepared for what would come next, Sophia's training took over, pushing aside emotion in favor of methodical planning. The attackers had made a critical error today. They had revealed their willingness to use violence while underestimating her capability to respond in kind. That tactical mistake gave her the advantage of surprise for her next move. She selected additional equipment from the hidden room. A compact night vision monocular, a tactical communication set with encrypted channels, and extra magazines for the Sig Sauer pistols already on her hips. Each item was checked with practiced precision, her movements automatic after years of preparation for missions where equipment failure meant death. As she worked, Sophia considered her next steps. The men who attacked today would return, perhaps as soon as tomorrow, expecting to find her cowed and ready to surrender her property. Instead, they would face a woman prepared to defend what was hers, with all the skill and determination that had kept her alive through 3 combat tours. But simple defense wasn't enough. She needed to understand who exactly she was fighting, how high up the corporate chain the corruption extended, and who in Coyote Springs might be complicit. Sheriff Harmon's reaction had been telling, his quick dismissal of corporate involvement suspicious. There were others in town whose loyalties might be divided, the mayor who spoke constantly of the economic boost the resort would bring, the bank manager who had recently declined to extend her operating loan, despite years of timely payments. Sophia needed information, and for that, she needed allies. Elena Vasquez had shown courage in speaking up about the Martinez fire. Miguel Reyes was young but loyal and observant. And there were others in the valley who had refused to sell, who might join together if someone took the lead. A noise from outside interrupted her thoughts, the distinctive sound of an approaching vehicle, its engine cut before reaching the house, a sign someone was attempting a stealthy approach. Sophia extinguished the lantern and moved silently up the cellar stairs, retrieving a loaded shotgun from beside the door before peering through a specially designed viewing port. The moon had risen, casting enough light to reveal a familiar truck, parked at the edge of her property line. A figure emerged, Jack Wilson, who owned the neighboring cattle operation to the south. At 58, Wilson was a widower himself, his wife having succumbed to cancer 3 winters prior. He had grown children in Reno who rarely visited. Sophia had always found him to be fair in his dealings, if somewhat gruff and distant. She opened the door before he could knock, the shotgun held casually but visibly at her side. Wilson removed his weather-beaten hat. "Evening, Mrs. Calloway. Hope I'm not disturbing you at this hour." "What brings you by, Mr. Wilson?" Sophia asked, not inviting him in but not turning him away either. "Heard about the trouble today," he said, his expression grim. "My foreman and I were checking fence lines when we heard the shooting. Wanted you to know we're keeping an eye out. Had some trouble ourselves last month. Someone cut our irrigation lines, drained our main stock pond overnight." Sophia studied him, weighing his words against what she knew of the man. "The Development Corporation made you an offer too, I take it?" Wilson nodded. 3 times now, each one higher than the last. My family's worked this land for 60 years. My wife is buried on the hill behind the house, not interested in selling at any price." He paused, seeming to debate whether to continue. "There's others who feel the same. Elena Vasquez, of course, the Rodriguez place west of town. Old man, Jenkins up on the plateau." "A coalition of the unwilling," Sophia said, a slight smile touching her lips. "Something like that." Wilson shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable with extended conversation. "Just wanted you to know you're not alone. In this, Mrs. Calloway, whatever's coming. Well, neighbors out here need to stand together." After Wilson left, Sophia remained on the porch, considering this new development. Allies were forming naturally, drawn together by a common threat. But alliance required trust, and trust required honesty. Sooner or later she would need to reveal her true capabilities to those who stood with her. For now, though, she would watch and wait. The men who attacked her ranch would return, expecting a frightened widow. Instead, they would find Captain Sophia Reynolds, decorated Special Forces operator, combat medic, and a woman who had survived firefights that would make these local thugs run for their lives. Let them come. She was ready. Dawn broke over Coyote Springs, with a stillness that belied the tension humming through the valley. Sophia had been awake for hours. falling easily into the rhythm of her military days when sleep was a luxury grabbed in small, efficient increments. She moved through a series of stretching exercises that had kept her field-ready through years of deployment, muscles remembering patterns her conscious mind rarely acknowledged anymore. The ranch appeared peaceful in the golden light, but subtle. Changes would have been apparent to a trained observer. Key approaches to the house now featured nearly invisible tripwires connected to simple alert systems. Strategic positions around the property held cached supplies, water, ammunition, medical kits, placed during her pre-dawn preparations. The casual observer would see nothing unusual, but Sophia had transformed her ranch into a defensive position that would make her former commanding officer proud. Miguel arrived just as the sun cleared the eastern mountains, his battered pickup. Raising dust along the access road, Sophia watched through high-powered binoculars as he stopped at the cattle gate, following the new protocol she'd established via text message the night before. 3 short honks, pause, 1 long. The recognition signal confirmed it was him, not someone using his vehicle under duress. "Morning, Miss Calloway," he called as he approached the house, eyeing the freshly patched bullet holes in the siding. "Brought some supplies from my father's hardware store. He said to put it on your account, wouldn't take no for an answer." Sophia smiled slightly at this show of community support. "Your father's a good man, Miguel. Thank him for me." The boy nodded, then hesitated, his eyes drawn to something he'd never noticed before: the way Sophia moved. Yesterday's violence had changed something subtle but fundamental in her bearing. The quiet, reserved widow had been replaced by someone who scanned horizons automatically, who positioned herself with clear sightlines to all approaches, whose hands never strayed, far from the weapons now openly carried on her hips. "Ms. Calloway," he began carefully, "my cousin Javier serves in the army. When he comes home on leave, he moves like you do now. Were you—" Instead of answering directly, Sophia pointed to the toolbox Miguel had brought. "How much do you know about perimeter security, Miguel?" The boy blinked at the unexpected question. "Not much, ma'am. Just what my uncle taught me for keeping coyotes away from the chickens." "Come with me," she said, leading him not toward the damaged sections of the house, but toward a small storage shed near the barn. "There's something you should see." She unlocked the shed with a key from her pocket, then pressed her thumb against what appeared to be a rusty nail head, but was actually a disguised biometric scanner. A section of the concrete floor slid aside, revealing a steep staircase descending into darkness. "This stays between us," she said, fixing Miguel with a steady gaze. "Ryan and I valued our privacy, and I've maintained that since his passing. But circumstances have changed." Miguel nodded solemnly. "Yes, ma'am. Not a word to anyone." Sophia led him down the stairs, motion-activated lights illuminating a space that made the boy freeze in astonishment. Unlike the defensive bunker beneath the house, this underground room was an advanced command center. One wall featured topographical maps of the entire valley, with key terrain features marked. Another held computer monitors displaying feeds from camouflaged cameras positioned around the property, a communications array that would have looked at home in a military installation occupied a corner workstation. "Your cousin Javier was right to notice something familiar in how I move," Sophia said, activating the systems with practiced efficiency. "Before I was Sophia Calloway, I was Captain Sophia Reynolds, Special Forces combat medic and close quarters combat instructor. Ryan and I met during a deployment that went sideways. We were both operators in units that officially didn't exist, conducting missions that officially never happened." Miguel's eyes widened as he took in both the room and this revelation. "Like secret military stuff, the kind that doesn't make it into briefings or newspapers," Sophia confirmed. She tapped a keyboard, bringing the security monitors to life. Each showed different approaches to the ranch, with heat-sensing capability and motion detection analytics running in real time. Ryan built this command center when we first moved here. Most of our neighbors thought we were just renovating an old storage cellar. But why? Why here in Coyote Springs? Miguel asked, struggling to reconcile the quiet widow with this revelation. Sophia's expression softened momentarily. We'd seen enough of the world's trouble spots. After Ryan's third Purple Heart, we wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere we could heal. The official story was that he was retiring from the military with honors. The reality was more complicated. She pulled up a digital file on one of the monitors. It showed a classified military document with most details redacted, but Miguel could make out Operation Kingfisher and Ryan Calloway's name among the heavily censored text. Our last mission went wrong in ways I can't discuss. Ryan saved the team, but took shrapnel that military doctors said would leave him with chronic pain for life. We came here to start over, to find peace. Her voice hardened. What Desert Vista doesn't understand is that they're not just trying to take a ranch from a widow. They're threatening the home of two people who sacrificed everything for their country and asked for nothing in return except to be left alone. Miguel absorbed this in silence, his young face solemn. Finally, he spoke with a maturity beyond his years. "What do you need me to do?" Sophia smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. "I need intelligence more than anything. Eyes and ears in town. You're there every day. People talk around you without thinking. I need to know who's connected to Desert Vista, what they're planning next. Like a spy." Miguel couldn't keep the excitement from his voice. "Like a responsible citizen protecting his community," Sophia corrected firmly. "No risks, no heroics. Information only. If something feels dangerous, you walk away. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." He nodded, chastened but still eager. For the next hour, Sophia showed Miguel how to use some of the simpler security systems, motion sensors that could be hidden in brush, alert protocols for different threat levels, recognition, signals that would identify friends from potential threats. The boy absorbed the instructions with surprising aptitude. "My father always said you pick things up quick or you don't survive in the desert," he explained when Sophia commented on his quick learning. "Seems like that's true for more than just finding water and avoiding rattlesnakes." As they emerged from the command center, the distinctive rumble of approaching vehicles reached them. Sophia's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm, but relaxed. When her phone vibrated with an alert from the perimeter sensors, the pattern indicated authorized visitors. Elena Vasquez's truck was approaching with 3 passengers. "We have company," Sophia told Miguel. "Remember, everything you've seen stays between us for now." "Yes, ma'am. I should get to fixing those fence posts anyway," he replied, moving toward the toolbox with new purpose in his step. Elena's truck pulled up to the house, dust settling around it as she stepped out with 2 men Miguel recognized as her brothers, Roberto and Carlos. They carried toolboxes and building supplies. "Brought reinforcements," Elena called, approaching with the confident stride of someone raised on hard-scrabbled desert land. "Figured you could use help patching those bullet holes properly before the weather turns." Sophia welcomed them with gracious restraint, noting that both brothers wore sidearms openly on their hips, a statement of solidarity that didn't need verbal explanation. As they set to work, more vehicles arrived. Jack Wilson and his foreman, the Rodriguez family from the next valley, even Old Man Jenkins with his grandson. By mid-morning, the ranch yard hosted a small army of neighbors, all bringing supplies, food, and an unspoken message. You are not alone. While the impromptu work party tackled the damage to her home, Sophia's satellite phone vibrated with an incoming secure message. She slipped away to check it, finding a detailed intelligence brief from her former unit's information specialist, a man who now held a senior position at a 3-letter agency he never named. The data on Desert Vista. Development painted a disturbing picture. The company was a shell corporation, with layers of ownership obscuring its true controllers. Financial records, accessed through means Sophia didn't question, revealed connections to Meridian Resource Group, a private military contractor with a notorious reputation for strong-arm tactics in resource-rich regions around the world. Their CEO, Victor Blackwood, had been investigated multiple times for corruption and human rights abuses overseas, but his political connections had shielded him from prosecution. Most concerning was the final paragraph of the brief. Meridian had recently hired several former operators with questionable service records, names Sophia recognized from whispered warnings within the special operations community, men who had been quietly separated from service after incidents in combat zones that crossed lines even in the moral gray areas of unconventional warfare. These weren't simple corporate thugs. They were trained killers who had once worn the same uniform she had. As Sophia processed this information, Elena approached, wiping dust from her hands. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, her directness another trait Sophia appreciated. "Just realizing what we're up against," Sophia replied carefully. "Desert Vista isn't what it appears to be." Eleanor glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Sheriff Harmon's been meeting with some suits at the Desert Mirage Hotel every Tuesday night for the past month. Goes in the back entrance, stays for exactly 90 minutes. Sophia filed this intelligence away. "Any idea who he's meeting with?" "Cousin cleans rooms there. Says one of them introduced himself as Victor when she accidentally entered during their meeting. Tall, expensive suit, East Coast accent, scar along his jawline. Victor Blackwood," Sophia confirmed, putting pieces together. "CEO of Meridian Resource Group, the real power behind Desert Vista." Elena's expression darkened. "Meridian? The mercenary outfit? My brother-in-law served in Iraq. Said those Meridian contractors were worse than the insurgents. No rules of engagement, no accountability." "The same," Sophia said. "But what would interest a PMC in ranch land in Coyote Springs? Water rights alone don't justify this level of investment." Before Eleanor could respond, a shout came from the front of the property. Jack Wilson's grandson was running toward them, out of breath and wide-eyed. "Vehicles coming, lots of them," he gasped. "Black SUVs and trucks. Papa said to warn you." Sophia's tactical mind shifted into high gear. "How many? How far out?" 8, maybe 10. Just turned onto the main access road. 10 minutes, maybe less." Sophia locked eyes with Elena. "Get everyone inside the barn. There's a root cellar behind the north wall. Everyone stays there until I give the all clear. No arguments." 2. "Her credit?" Elena asked no questions, immediately moving to gather the neighbors with quiet urgency. Sophia turned to Miguel, who stood nearby, his young face set with determination. "Remember the alert protocol we discussed?" she asked. He nodded. "Red alert, shelter position. I'll make sure everyone stays put." "Good man," Sophia said, placing a hand briefly on his shoulder. "No heroics, remember? These aren't the same men as yesterday." As Miguel helped Elena evacuate everyone to the shelter, Sophia returned to the house, moving with the focused efficiency that had once been as natural as breathing. Within minutes, she had changed into tactical clothing, desert camouflage pants, a moisture-wicking combat shirt, and lightweight boots. From the armory beneath the house, she selected weapons with careful consideration. Her primary sidearms remained the Sig Sauers, but she added a compact PDW, a personal defense weapon that split the difference between submachine gun and carbine. Finally, she activated the ranch's advanced security system from a hidden panel in the kitchen. Camouflaged cameras would now record everything that happened, while motion sensors would track the movement of every person on her property. The command center beneath the storage shed would log everything, creating an unimpeachable record. Sophia took position on the covered back porch, which offered clear sightlines to the approaching vehicles, while providing both concealment and cover. Through her binoculars, she could now see the convoy, 4 black suburban SUVs and 3 pickup trucks with reinforced frames and light bars. The vehicles moved in professional formation, maintaining precise distances from each other. Not local. Thugs this time. The lead suburban stopped at the edge of her property. The others fanned out, establishing a perimeter with practiced efficiency. The rear doors of the lead vehicle opened, and 3 men emerged. Sophia's breath caught as she recognized the center figure immediately. Victor Blackwood himself, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit that seemed absurdly out of place in the Nevada desert. To his right stood Sheriff Harmon, looking uncomfortable in his official uniform, his hand resting nervously on his service weapon. It was the third man who truly captured Sophia's attention. Tall, with a muscular build visible. Even under his tactical clothing, he moved with the unmistakable bearing of special operations. His face triggered immediate recognition. Major Marcus Weller, former Delta Force commander, separated from service under circumstances that had generated whispers throughout the special operations community. Sophia had met him once, briefly, during a joint training exercise. She doubted he would remember her. She had been one of dozens of medical personnel supporting the operation, but she remembered him. The intensity in his eyes, the ruthless efficiency in his movements, and the rumors that followed him, operations that exceeded authorized force. Civilians caught in the crossfire, reports mysteriously altered after the fact. Now he worked for Meridian, and by extension, for Blackwood. The presence of both men at her ranch confirmed this was no ordinary land grab. Something more significant than a resort development was at stake. Sophia raised her phone to her ear, pressing the secure connection to her former teammate's burner number. "Talon, this is Phoenix," she said quietly, using their old operational call signs. "Target has arrived personally with high-level muscle. Weller is on site. Repeat, Marcus Weller is on site. This just escalated beyond a real estate dispute." The voice that responded was calm, professional. "Copy, Phoenix. Satellite imagery confirms 9 vehicles total, approximately 14 personnel visible, likely more inside vehicles. Thermal shows they're armed. Classification, Tier 1 threat. Assessment, Meridian doesn't deploy personnel of Weller's caliber. For property intimidation, something else is in play, sending you updated intelligence. Satellite will maintain coverage of your position for the next 72 hours. Understood. Phoenix out." Sophia ended the call, her mind processing the implications of Blackwood and Weller's presence. Whatever lay beneath her land was valuable. Enough to bring the CEO of a billion-dollar private military company to her doorstep personally. As the 3 men approached her house, flanked by 4 operators in tactical gear who established security positions with professional precision, Sophia made her decision. This was not the moment for confrontation, but for intelligence gathering. She holstered her weapons, straightened her clothing, and stepped onto the front porch just as they reached the bottom of her steps. The shock on Sheriff Harmon's face at her transformed appearance was almost comical. Gone was the grieving widow in ranch clothes, replaced by someone whose bearing and attire screamed military professional. But it was the flash of recognition in Weller's eyes that confirmed Sophia's suspicions. He knew exactly who she was, which meant this visit wasn't a coincidence or a standard intimidation tactic. They had come specifically because of who owned this land, not just for the property itself. "Mrs. Calloway," Victor Blackwood called. "Up," his voice cultured and smooth. "I believe we have matters of mutual interest to discuss. May we come inside?" Sophia leaned against the porch railing, her posture deliberately casual. while allowing quick access to her concealed sidearm. "I make it a policy not to invite armed men into my home, Mr. Blackwood, especially when they arrive unannounced with private security forces." Blackwood's smile tightened fractionally, the only indication that he was surprised by her recognition. "You have me at a disadvantage. One of many," Sophia replied coolly. "But then, I'm sure Major Weller has already briefed you on exactly who owns this ranch. That's why you're here in person, instead of sending more local muscle." Weller's expression remained professionally neutral, but a muscle twitched in his jaw, confirmation that her assessment was correct. "Captain Reynolds," he acknowledged with a slight nod, "your reputation precedes you." "As does yours, Major," she responded, emphasizing his former rank. "Though I believe it's just Mr. now, isn't it? After Kandahar." The reference to the classified operation that had ended his military career hit its mark. Weller's eyes narrowed dangerously, but Blackwood smoothly stepped forward before he could respond. "It seems we can dispense with pretenses," the CEO said. "Desert Vista Development, through its parent company Meridian Resource Group, would like to acquire your property. We're prepared to offer $10 million, significantly above market value for a struggling cattle ranch." Sophia didn't bother masking her surprise at the figure. It was exponentially higher than what neighbors had been offered. "That's quite a sum for water rights and grazing land, Mr. Blackwood. Almost makes me wonder what you think is beneath my soil that justifies such generosity." Blackwood's smile never reached his eyes. "The future of Coyote Springs as a premier resort destination, Mrs. Calloway. Nothing more mysterious than that." Sophia let the obvious lie hang in the air. "And if I'm not interested in selling, regardless of price," Sheriff Harmon stepped forward, clearing his throat nervously. "Sophia, be reasonable. This kind of opportunity doesn't come along twice. Think about what Ryan would want." "Don't," Sophia cut him off, her voice dropping to a dangerous register that made the sheriff physically step back. "Don't presume to speak for my husband, Doug." Blackwood's expression remained pleasant, but his tone hardened. "Captain Reynolds or Mrs. Calloway, if you prefer. I'm a businessman above all else. I appreciate direct negotiation. The offer stands for 48 hours. After that, I'm afraid market forces may reduce your property's value considerably." "Market forces," Sophia echoed with a cold smile. "Is that what you call the men who shot up my house yesterday? Or the ones who cut Jack Wilson's irrigation lines? Or perhaps the accidental fire at the Martinez place?" "Regrettable incidents," Blackwood replied smoothly. "The kind that sometimes occur when communities resist progress. But I assure you, Desert Vista Development operates entirely within the law." "Does it?" Sophia asked. "I wonder what the Nevada Gaming Commission would think about Meridian's involvement in local real estate. Or perhaps the Pentagon might be interested in how many former special operators with questionable discharges are now on your payroll, operating on American soil." For the first time, Blackwood's composure slipped slightly. Beside him, Weller's hand drifted subtly toward the weapon concealed beneath his jacket. Sophia didn't move, but her awareness heightened, calculating angles, distances, response options if the situation deteriorated. The security team had subtly adjusted their positions, creating interlocking fields of fire, professional, dangerous. 48 hours, Mrs. Calloway, Blackwood repeated, recovering his poise. "I suggest you use them wisely." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and those neighbors you've hidden in your barn. They might benefit from similar consideration of their options. Progress is inevitable. The only question is whether you profit from it or are destroyed by it." As they returned to their vehicles, Sophia remained motionless on the porch, watching until the last dust cloud disappeared down her access road. Only then did she allow herself to exhale fully, the tension in her muscles releasing incrementally. Whatever secret lay beneath her land, it was worth millions to Meridian Resources. and they had shown their hand by bringing Blackwood and Weller in person. The game had changed fundamentally. This was no longer about defending her ranch from local intimidation. It was about uncovering what made her property valuable enough to deploy former special operators against an American citizen on American soil. She needed to know what lay beneath the Callaway Ranch, and she needed to discover it before Blackwood's 48-hour deadline expired. Twilight painted the Nevada mountains purple as Sophia gathered her unexpected allies in the barn. The impromptu community meeting had drawn 15 of her neighbors, ranchers, shopkeepers, and landowners who had either rejected Desert Vista's offers or stood to lose their livelihoods if the resort development proceeded. They sat on hay bales and folding chairs, their faces grave in the warm glow of lantern light. "I appreciate all of you coming," Sophia began, standing before a large topographical map of Coyote Springs Valley she'd pinned to the barn wall. "And I appreciate the support you've shown today. But what's happening goes beyond neighborly troubles, and you all deserve to know exactly what you're facing." She explained what she'd learned about Desert Vista being a shell company for Meridian Resource Group, watching their faces shift from concern to alarm. "My God," Elena's father, Roberto Vasquez, muttered. "Meridian, the same outfit that was accused of shooting those protesters in Nigeria?" "The very same," Sophia confirmed. "And they've brought in high-level operatives, former military with specialized training." Jack Wilson leaned forward on his hay bale. "No offense, Sophia, but how exactly do you know all this? You sound more like military intelligence than a rancher's widow." The moment of truth had arrived. Sophia took a deep breath. "Because that's exactly what I was," she said quietly. "Captain Sophia Reynolds, Special Forces, attached to classified operations for 8 years before I met Ryan. He was Delta Force. We came here looking for peace after our last deployment." A stunned silence fell over the barn. "Well, I'll be damned," Wilson finally said, a slow smile spreading across his weathered face. "Ryan always did say there was more to you than met the eye." Elena's brother Carlos leaned forward. "So what are we up against? Why would mercenaries want our land badly enough to threaten us? This can't just be about a resort." "That's what we need to find out," Sophia replied, moving to the map. "Whatever it is, it's valuable enough that Blackwood himself showed up with a $10 million offer for my property today." A collective gasp ran through the group. "10 million?" Jack Wilson whistled low. "He only offered me 2 for twice the acreage." "Exactly," Sophia said. "Something's on my land they want badly, something worth far more than water rights." Miguel, who had been quiet until now, raised his hand tentatively. "My uncle works for the Bureau of Land Management. Last year, he mentioned some geological survey teams spent weeks in the canyon, south of your property, Ms. Callaway. Said they were very secretive, wouldn't talk about what they were looking for." "That canyon runs right under the eastern edge of my property," Sophia noted, tracing the formation on the map. "What else do you know about this survey team?" "Just that they weren't government, private contractors, had heavy equipment, ground-penetrating radar." Roberto Vasquez cleared his throat. 3 years ago, there was talk about rare earth minerals in the basin. The county commissioner shut down all discussion of it at town meetings." "The same commissioner who just built that new mansion outside town?" Elena asked pointedly. Pieces were beginning to connect. Sophia circled a section of the map encompassing her property and portions of Wilson's and the Martinez land. "If there are valuable minerals under our properties, that would explain Meridian's interest. Resource acquisition is their specialty. Worldwide, usually in places with fewer legal protections than the United States." "So what do we do?" asked Maria Rodriguez, whose family owned the local market. "We can't fight mercenaries." Sophia's expression hardened. "Actually, Fighting people like this is exactly what I was trained to do. But this isn't about violence, it's about leverage. If they're operating illegally or unethically, exposure is what they fear most. She turned to the group, her military woe bearing now fully evident. We have 48 hours before Blackwood escalates. In that time, we need 3 things. First, concrete evidence of what they're after. Second, documentation of their illegal tactics. And third, a security plan for everyone in this room. Jack Wilson stood, his weathered face resolute. My boys, and I know every inch of this valley, will help with surveillance. My cousin works at the county records office, Elena offered. She can check for any unusual land surveys or mineral rights applications. One by one, the neighbors offered resources, skills and information. The Rodriguez brothers, who had military experience, volunteered for security details. The owner of the local hardware store promised supplies. Even old Jenkins, who rarely spoke at town meetings, offered his property's fire lookout tower as an observation post. As the meeting continued, Sophia felt a surge of pride. These weren't trained operators, but they were resilient, resourceful people who knew their land and community. Against corporate mercenaries, that local knowledge might be their greatest advantage. One more thing, she said, as the meeting concluded. Everyone needs to be reachable at all times. Miguel's father has agreed to distribute these. She held up a small black case containing encrypted two-way radios. Secure communications, military grade. My husband stockpiled equipment. He always said it was better to have it and not need it. The group dispersed as darkness fell completely, each with assignments and a renewed sense of purpose. Only Jack Wilson remained behind, studying the map. Thoughtfully, your husband, he said quietly. He chose this property specifically, didn't he? Not just for the water rights or the view. Sophia paused, considering how much to reveal. Ryan was thorough in his research. He studied geological surveys, water tables, mineral deposits, said this land would be valuable long after the cattle were gone. Wilson nodded slowly. My family's been here 3 generations. My grandfather used to tell stories about the old mine shafts that run all through these hills. Most were played out by the 1920s. But he always said the real treasure was deeper than anyone could dig back then. Do you know where those old shafts are located? Sophia asked, suddenly alert. Some. There's one on the north edge of your property, hidden in that box canyon, been sealed up since before I was born. Sophia moved to the map, marking the location. Could you show me tomorrow? Wilson nodded. First light, bring rope and flashlights. He paused at the door. Your husband would be proud, Sophia. Of the ranch, of how you've kept it going, of what you're doing now. After everyone had left, Sophia returned to the command center beneath the storage shed. She uploaded the day's security footage to an encrypted cloud server her former teammate had provided, then connected a satellite call on a secure line. Phoenix secure, she said when the connection established. Talon receiving. The voice was professional, clipped. Satellite shows your visitors departed. Status? They're after something underground. Possible rare earth minerals. Need geological survey data for this region, particularly focusing on my property and the canyon to the south. Working on it. Preliminary data suggests significant deposits of lanthanides and possibly scandium. Strategic importance, Category 2. Sophia's brow furrowed. Category 2 meant defense applications, materials used in advanced weapon systems, guidance technology, or communications equipment. That explains Meridian's involvement, she said. They're expanding from security contracting to resource acquisition. Affirmative. Intel suggests they've secured private contracts with defense manufacturers, bypassing government oversight of strategic materials. Legal. Gray area at best. Definitely contrary to national security interests. Dodi would be concerned if they knew. Sophia absorbed this information. I need something else. Background check on a former operator, Marcus Weller. Delta Force, discharged approximately 3 years ago. A pause. That's classified territory. He's working for Meridian now, leading their team here. A longer pause. I'll see what I can do. Anything else? Satellite coverage of the canyon south of my property. Heat signatures, ground penetration if possible. I think they've already started preliminary work. Uploading what we have now. Full analysis in 6 hours. Copy that. Phoenix out. Sophia leaned back in her chair, processing the implications. If Meridian was attempting to secure control of strategic minerals outside normal government channels, this went beyond a simple land grab. The Department of Defense maintained careful oversight of such resources for national security reasons. A soft ping from her computer indicated an incoming file, satellite imagery of the canyon bordering her property. Even at first glance, the heat signatures were unmistakable. Equipment operating under camouflage netting, vehicle tracks carefully concealed but visible to infrared, and most tellingly, a temperature anomaly consistent with recent drilling. They weren't waiting for her. Answer to their offer. They were already extracting samples. A soft chime from the perimeter sensors interrupted her analysis. Someone was approaching. A single vehicle, lights off, moving slowly along the access road. Sophia switched to the night vision cameras, tensing when she recognized Sheriff Harmon's personal truck. She secured the command center and made her way to the house, retrieving her sidearm from its holster. When Harmon's truck stopped in the yard, she was waiting on the porch, silhouetted against the dim light from inside. "Little late for a social call, Doug," she called out as he approached, hands conspicuously visible. "This isn't official business," he said, voice low. "Can we talk inside?" Sophia considered him for a moment, then nodded toward the barn. "Out there. House might be bugged after today's visit." In the barn, she gestured him to a seat and remained standing, her posture alert, but not overtly threatening. "I'm guessing you didn't tell Blackwood you were coming," she said. Harmon removed his hat, running fingers through thinning hair. "No, and he can't know I was here." He looked up at her, eyes haunted. "I'm in over my head, Sophia." "How deep?" "Started. Small. Campaign contributions when I ran for sheriff, then favors, ignoring complaints about their survey team's trespassing, looking the other way when they pressured the Martinez family." He swallowed hard. "I didn't ask questions when they said they needed easements through the valley. The money was good." "And then it wasn't just money," Sophia guessed. "Then it was photos, recordings, leverage." Harmon's silence was confirmation enough. "What are they after, Doug?" "What's under my land?" He shook his head. "They don't tell me details, but I overheard Blackwood talking about strategic reserves worth billions. Whatever it is, the government doesn't know it's here, or they'd have claimed it already. And now they're bringing in mercenaries with military backgrounds, armed men threatening American citizens on American soil." Sophia's voice hardened. "That crosses a line, Doug. That's not looking the other way at a survey team. That's conspiracy against national security interests." "I know." His voice was barely audible. "That's why I'm here." He reached slowly into his jacket, removing a flash drive. Recorded conversations, bank transfers, their operational timeline. "They're not waiting for your answer, Sophia. They start major extraction in 3 days, regardless." Sophia took the drive, studying Harmon's face. "Why now? Why help us?" "Because I was at Arlington when they buried Ryan," he said quietly. "I saw what they gave him for his service. Medals that couldn't bring him back to you. And now, I'm helping the people he fought against." His voice broke. "My son's in the army, Sophia. How do I look him in the eye?" She nodded slowly, making her decision. "We're organizing the whole valley. You can help us, Doug, but it has to be all in, no playing both sides. They'll ruin me. They'll do worse if they succeed. And if we stop them, we can make sure you're protected." She held his gaze. "Your choice, but you need to make it now." The silence stretched between them, filled only with the soft sounds of the desert night outside. Finally, Harmon nodded. "What do you need?" "Access to county records, communications channels, and most importantly, advance warning of any official action they try to take through your office." "They're planning something for tomorrow night," he said. Weller requested deputy credentials for 6 of his men, called it a training exercise. Sophia's expression hardened. "They're not waiting for my answer. They're planning to move on the property regardless. I can delay the credentials maybe until tomorrow afternoon. That's all the time I can buy you." "It's enough." Sophia extended her hand. "Welcome to the resistance, Sheriff." After Harmon left, Sophia returned to the command center and uploaded the flash drive contents to her secure server. The information confirmed her suspicions. Meridian had discovered a major deposit of rare earth elements critical to advanced weapon systems and was moving to secure private control before the federal government became aware of its strategic value. More troubling were the operational plans. They weren't just planning to pressure her. They had contingencies for neutralizing resistance that included what they euphemistically called extraction protocols for uncooperative landowners. She worked through the night, correlating the new intelligence with satellite imagery and geological surveys her former teammate had provided. By dawn, a clear picture had emerged. The mineral deposits formed a narrow band that ran directly beneath her property, Wilson's land, and the canyon to the south. Preliminary testing had confirmed concentrations far exceeding any known North American deposits, potentially worth billions. As the first light of dawn touched the eastern horizon, Sophia finally allowed herself 2 hours of tactical rest, the controlled sleep technique she had mastered during deployments. When she woke, she reviewed the security feeds, noting with satisfaction that her neighbors had already begun implementing the surveillance plan they'd developed. The Rodriguez brothers had established observation posts at strategic points around the valley. Elena's cousin had delivered county land records showing irregularities in how Desert Vista had acquired certain properties. Most promising, Miguel's uncle from the Bureau of Land Management had provided geological survey maps showing the true extent of the mineral deposits. By mid-morning, Wilson arrived as promised with climbing gear and powerful flashlights. "Ready to explore some history?" he asked as they loaded equipment into his truck. "Lead the way," Sophia replied, securing her sidearm and a compact tactical vest beneath a light jacket. They drove to the northern edge of her property, where the land rose sharply into rocky bluffs. Wilson parked in a narrow ravine, concealing the vehicle from aerial observation. "My grandfather brought me here when I was about 12, he explained, as they hiked up a nearly invisible trail. "Said his father helped seal this mine when they found something they weren't expecting." "What were they looking for originally?" Sophia asked, scanning the terrain with the practiced eye of someone who had navigated far more hostile environments. "Silver, mostly. But grandfather said they hit a strange vein, something that glowed under certain light. The mining company ordered it sealed immediately. After 20 minutes of climbing, Wilson paused beside what appeared to be a natural rock formation. Only when he brushed away decades of accumulated dust and vegetation did Sophia see the weathered timber frame. "Mine entrance," he explained, "collapsed intentionally from what my grandfather said." Together, they cleared away enough debris to reveal a narrow opening. Cool air flowed outward, a sign that the shaft connected to a larger system somewhere. "I'll go first," Sophia said, securing a tactical headlamp and checking her sidearm. "You were expecting trouble down there?" Wilson asked, eyeing the weapon. "I always plan for contingencies," she replied simply. "Stay close, and if I signal you to stop, don't move." The shaft descended at a steep angle, old timber supports groaning ominously as they made their way down. After about 50 feet, the Narrow passage opened into a larger chamber where the remnants of old mining equipment lay scattered and rusting. Sophia swept her light across the walls, revealing the glittering veins Wilson's grandfather had mentioned. She removed a small device from her vest, a handheld spectrometer her husband had acquired during his final deployment. "What is that?" Wilson asked as she calibrated the device. "It analyzes mineral composition," she explained, scanning the unusual. "Veins." The device beeped, displaying results on its small screen. "Just as I suspected. Heavy concentration of rare earth elements, neodymium, dysprosium, terbium, all critical components in advanced weapons systems, guidance technology, night vision equipment. That's what Meridian is after." "Exactly. These minerals are primarily sourced from China, which controls over 80% of global production. A domestic supply of this quality would be worth billions and strategically vital to national security." Sophia's light caught something unexpected, fresh. Tool marks on one wall and modern survey markers embedded in the rock face. "Someone's been here recently," Wilson observed. "Within the last week," Sophia confirmed, examining the marks. "They're already testing the concentration, which means—" Her radio crackled to life with Miguel's urgent voice. "Miss Calloway, vehicles approaching from the South Road, at least 6 SUVs, heavily tinted windows, armed men visible." Sophia's expression hardened. "They're not waiting for my answer. They're moving now." She turned to Wilson. "We need to get back to the ranch, fast." As they scrambled back up the shaft, Sophia's radio crackled again with Elena's voice. "Sophia, Sheriff Harmon just called. Meridian's men received emergency deputy credentials 20 minutes ago. They're coming with official sanction." Blackwood must have overruled Harmon, Sophia said grimly as they emerged into the sunlight. "He couldn't delay them as long as he promised." They reached Wilson's truck and sped back toward the main property, taking a concealed route through a dry creek, bed to avoid being spotted. "What's the plan?" Wilson asked, expertly navigating the rough terrain. "Plan B," Sophia replied, keying her radio to broadcast on all frequencies. "All units, this is Phoenix. Meridian forces approaching with false authority. Implement protocol. Echo immediately. I repeat, protocol echo, acknowledge." One by one, her improvised network of neighbors responded, confirming they were enacting the contingency plan they had developed the previous night. As they approached the ranch, Sophia could see the convoy of black SUVs already turning onto her. Access road, dust billowing behind them. "Get to your position," she told Wilson as they reached the barn. "And remember, no engagement unless absolutely necessary for self-defense. This is about documentation, not confrontation." Wilson nodded grimly and headed for his assigned observation post as Sophia entered her command center. The monitors showed Meridian's tactical team deploying in a professional perimeter around her property. At least 12 men in tactical gear, carrying what appeared to be standard law enforcement weapons, but moving with the precision of military training. Marcus Weller led them, directing the operation with hand signals that Sophia recognized from her own training. At the edge of the property, Sheriff Harmon stood by his vehicle, his body language communicating clear discomfort with the situation. Sophia activated her satellite uplink, ensuring that everything was being recorded and transmitted in real time to secure servers beyond Meridian's reach. Then she opened a secure connection. "Talon, this is Phoenix. Meridian forces on site with falsified law enforcement credentials, implementing countermeasures now. Confirm you're receiving video feed." "Confirmed, Phoenix. DoD and Bureau contacts. Standing by. Continue as planned." Sophia checked her weapons, then moved to position. The confrontation she had trained for her entire military career wasn't on some foreign battlefield. It was here, on American soil, defending not just her home, but potentially national security itself. As Weller's team approached her house in tactical formation, Sophia activated the ranch's defense protocol with a single command into her secure phone. Throughout the property, hidden cameras activated, recording every movement and word. Passive sensors tracked each armed individual. And most importantly, the encrypted data began streaming to multiple secure locations simultaneously, including directly to contacts at the Department of Defense and the FBI. Whatever happened in the next hour would be witnessed, recorded and preserved beyond Meridian's ability to cover up. She stepped onto her porch, hands deliberately visible and empty, as Weller approached with 4 armed men. "Marcus," she greeted him calmly. "I see you've abandoned the pretense of negotiation." Weller's expression remained professionally neutral. "Mrs. Calloway, we have a warrant to search these premises for evidence of illegal weapons stockpiling and paramilitary activity." He held up an official-looking document. "Sheriff, Harmon has deputized my security team to assist in this operation." "Convenient timing," Sophia replied, making no move to take the paper, "especially since your CEO gave me 48 hours to consider his offer yesterday." "This is unrelated to any business discussions," Weller stated flatly, though his eyes showed he knew she wasn't fooled. "Is it?" Sophia's voice carried across the yard, where she knew multiple recording devices were capturing every word. "Or is Meridian Resource Group attempting to seize private property containing strategic mineral deposits before the federal government becomes aware of their existence?" The slight widening of Weller's eyes confirmed her shot in the dark had hit home. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said carefully. "We have lawful authority to search these premises. With falsified warrants, using private military contractors illegally posing as law enforcement." Sophia smiled thinly. "Interesting approach, Major. I wonder how the Department of Defense would view a former Delta operator participating in what amounts to an armed invasion of American soil for foreign interests." Weller's expression hardened. "You're making serious accusations without evidence, Mrs. Calloway." "Am I?" Sophia held up her phone, displaying a live satellite feed of the property, with each of Weller's men tagged and identified. "Every word of this conversation, every movement of your team, is being recorded and transmitted in real time to multiple secure locations, including to active contacts at DoD and the Bureau." She stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly. "Your warrant is fraudulent. Your deputies are unlicensed armed contractors, and the mineral deposits you're attempting to secure without federal oversight are classified as strategic resources under National Security Directive 67. For the first time, Weller's professional composure slipped. Behind him, several of his men exchanged uncertain glances. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said quietly. "No game, Major. Just defending my home." Sophia's gaze hardened. "Now, I suggest you and your men withdraw immediately before this situation escalates from corporate overreach to a national security incident." The standoff stretched for several tense seconds, neither side willing to back down. Around the perimeter, Sophia knew her improvised network of neighbors was documenting everything from multiple angles, creating an unassailable record of Meridian's illegal operation. Finally, Weller's radio crackled. He listened briefly, his expression darkening. "Stand down," he ordered his team abruptly. "We're withdrawing." As they backed away, Sophia remained motionless on her porch, maintaining eye contact with Weller until he turned away. Only when the convoy of vehicles had disappeared down her access road did she allow herself a small smile of satisfaction. The first battle had been won, but the war was far from over. In her command center, she connected with her former teammate, Talon Sitrep. "All footage received and secured. DoD contact is extremely interested in what you've uncovered. Bureau is initiating an investigation into Meridian based on the evidence of falsified law enforcement credentials alone." "They'll be back," Sophia said, "with different tactics." "Not any time soon," came the reply. Your transmission triggered some high-level alarms. The Pentagon has initiated an emergency review of strategic resource security, and Blackwood just received summons to appear before a classified committee tomorrow morning. For the first time in days, Sophia felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. So we've bought some time. More than that, you've exposed a national security vulnerability they can't ignore. DoD is dispatching a legitimate security team to your location, ETA 3 hours. Until then, maintain your perimeter. As she ended the transmission, Miguel's voice came over the radio. Miss Calloway, the sheriff is approaching, alone this time. Through the security cameras, Sophia watched Harmon's cruiser come slowly up the drive. His posture as he stepped out suggested both relief and anxiety. It worked, he said simply as she met him outside. Blackwood is furious. He's been ordered back to Washington immediately. Something about national security implications. And your role in this? Sophia asked. Harmon grimaced. I've been instructed to cooperate fully with the federal task force arriving this afternoon. My career is probably over, but... He shrugged. Better than the alternative. You did the right thing, Doug. Eventually, he acknowledged. Too late. To be called heroic. But not too late to matter, Sophia countered. What about the valley, the other properties? Federal hold on all land transactions in the region, effective immediately. No sales, no development, pending investigation. Sophia nodded, satisfaction warming her for the first time in days. Then we've bought ourselves some time. As Harmon left, Sophia looked out over her property, the land Ryan had chosen so carefully, knowing what lay beneath it, understanding its strategic value even then. Had he anticipated this confrontation? Had he prepared her home, knowing someday it might need to be defended? She would never know for certain. But as she watched her neighbors emerging from their observation posts, gathering in the yard with expressions of cautious victory, she felt certain of one thing. This land was worth defending not just for what lay beneath it, but for the community that stood upon it. The battle with Meridian wasn't over. Corporations with billions at stake rarely surrendered after a single defeat, but the balance had shifted. What had begun as a widow standing alone against corporate mercenaries had transformed into something far more powerful. A community united in defense of their homes, supported by the full weight of national security interests. As the sun began its descent toward the western mountains, casting long shadows across the ranch Ryan had loved, Sophia felt his presence more strongly than she had since his death. He had chosen this land knowing its value. He had prepared it, and her for this moment. And for the first time since burying her husband, Sophia Calloway felt truly at home. The promised federal security team never arrived. 3 hours after her standoff with Weller, Sophia's satellite phone buzzed with an encrypted message from her contact. Federal team diverted. Pentagon communications compromised. Blackwood has high-level support. You're on your own for the night. Sophia processed this development with the cold calculation of a veteran operator. If Meridian had enough influence to interfere with the Department of Defense deployment, they wouldn't waste time before launching a counterattack. Their window of opportunity was closing as awareness of the strategic minerals spread through official channels. They'll come tonight, she told the core group gathered in her command center. Wilson, Elena, the Rodriguez brothers, and Sheriff Harmon. With everything they have. The roadblocks we set up won't stop them for long, Carlos Rodriguez observed, studying the tactical display. They're not meant to, Sophia replied. Just to channel them along predetermined approaches and bias. Time. She pointed to locations on the digital map. We've evacuated all non-essential personnel to Sagebrush Canyon. The remaining defenders are positioned here, here, and here. Observation only, no engagement. What about federal help? Harmon asked, the weight of his betrayal still evident in his posture. Delayed, possibly intentionally. Sophia didn't. Elaborate further. We need to hold until morning, when too many eyes will be watching for them to risk overt action. She activated a secure satellite uplink, displaying a real-time overhead view of the valley. My contact managed this much. Continuous surveillance with data streaming to multiple secure locations. Whatever happens tonight will be documented beyond Meridian's ability to erase. There, Wilson pointed to movement on the screen. A convoy of vehicles with their lights off, moving along the access road from the south. At least 8 vehicles, heavy ones from the dust pattern. Sophia magnified the image. Armored personnel carriers, military surplus. They're bringing significant firepower. She turned to the group. This is your last chance to withdraw. What's coming isn't a corporate security team. It's a private military operation on American soil. No one moved. Good. Sophia nodded, unsurprised by their resolve. Remember the plan. Observation only. Documentation is our weapon tonight, not bullets. As the others moved to their assigned positions, Harmon lingered behind. I should be with them, he said, his sheriff's badge catching the light as he fidgeted with it. You have a more important role, Sophia replied, handing him a secure tablet. If this goes sideways, you're our direct line to legitimate authorities. The moment anything happens, you transmit this evidence to every contact on this list, FBI, state police, military command channels. He accepted the tablet solemnly. They trusted me to protect this valley. Tonight you will, Sophia said. Simply, after he departed to his secure location, Sophia completed her preparations. She dressed in full tactical gear, lightweight body armor beneath desert camouflage, combat boots, and a communications headset linked to her improvised network of defenders. Her weapons were selected with deliberate care. Primary sidearms, a compact PDW, and several non-lethal options, including flashbangs and smoke grenades. This wasn't about killing Meridian's operators. It was about surviving long enough for the weight of law and military authority to catch up with Blackwood's operation. From her command center, Sophia monitored the approaching force. They moved with professional precision, deploying in tactical formation around her property perimeter. She counted 24 operators, far more than during the previous confrontation, equipped with military-grade weapons and night vision. Leading them was not Weller this time, but Victor Blackwood himself, dressed incongruously in tactical gear over what appeared to be an expensive suit. The message was clear. This was important enough for the CEO to personally oversee. All stations, maintain position, maintain silence, Sophia instructed over the encrypted channel. Record everything, engage nothing. She moved through the underground passage, connecting her command center to the main house, emerging in the darkened kitchen, just as the first of Meridian's operators reached her porch. Through her night vision monocular, she watched their methodical approach, clearing angles, maintaining coverage, professional in every movement. What they didn't know was that her property had been prepared for this moment since the day she and Ryan purchased it. Passive sensors tracked every movement, recording in spectrum beyond visible light. Sound amplifiers captured every whispered command. And most importantly, every piece of data streamed in real time to servers beyond Meridian's reach. The front. Doctor splintered under a tactical ram. Operators poured in, weapons raised, sweeping the darkened rooms with practiced efficiency. Sophia remained hidden in a concealed observation position, watching as they methodically cleared each room. House clear. Proceeding to basement, one operator reported into his radio. No sign of the target, another added. Blackwood's voice came through clearly on their communications, which Sophia had easily compromised. She's here somewhere. Find her, find the documentation, and conclude this operation. We have 4 hours until dawn. Sophia smiled grimly at the frustration in his tone. They had expected to find her easily, to neutralize any resistance quickly. Instead, they found an empty house with no indication of where she or her allies might The operators discovered the bunker beneath the house, but the armory had been emptied, essential documents removed. Their frustration mounted as Blackwood continued demanding results. After allowing them to waste precious time searching, Sophia initiated the next phase of her plan. Using her remote access, she activated the ranch's external lighting system, all at once flooding the property in blinding illumination. Simultaneously, a pre-recorded message began broadcasting from speakers positioned around the property. Attention, Meridian personnel. This is a notification that you are engaged in illegal paramilitary activity on American soil. You are being recorded by multiple surveillance systems, with feeds transmitting to federal authorities. Withdraw immediately. The effect was electric. Several operators instinctively sought cover, disoriented by the sudden light and sound. Others looked to their communications for guidance. But Sophia had activated targeted jamming frequencies, isolating their tactical network. On her monitor, she watched Blackwood gesturing furiously, trying to regain control of his operation. Weller appeared beside him, pointing toward the barn, where unusual movement had caught his attention. Sophia switched camera views to see Elena and Carlos deliberately making themselves visible before disappearing into the darkness. A calculated distraction to draw forces away from the house. They're splitting their team, she noted with satisfaction. Rodriguez team, initiate diversion protocol 3. Across the property, carefully positioned devices activated sequentially. Some creating heat signatures to mimic human movement, others generating subtle sounds that would draw attention. Each pulled Meridian's operators further from there. Coordinated formation, spreading their resources thin. Through it all, Sophia remained undetected, directing her network with the precision of a battlefield commander. Each of her neighbors had simple, specific tasks, none dangerous individually, but collectively creating a tapestry of confusion for the invading force. After allowing this to continue for 20 minutes, Sophia moved to the next phase. She made her way through a concealed passage to a position overlooking the command vehicle where Blackwood had established his headquarters. Through her directional microphone, she could hear his increasingly agitated instructions. I don't care what it takes. Find her, find those documents, and end this. We have millions invested and powerful people expecting results. The desperation in his voice confirmed what Sophia had suspected. Blackwood was under enormous pressure from whoever was backing. Meridian's operation. The strategic minerals represented not just profit, but influence, leverage in circles far beyond a simple corporate venture. The time had come for direct confrontation. Sophia activated a focused EMP device, another of Ryan's specialized tools, temporarily disabling electronics in a narrow cone centered on Blackwood's command vehicle. In the sudden darkness and confusion, she moved with the silent efficiency that had once made her legendary among her fellow operators. When Blackwood's backup systems activated 30 seconds later, he found himself staring into the barrel of Sophia's sidearm. "Good evening, Mr. Blackwood," she said calmly. "I believe we have matters to discuss." To his credit, the CEO maintained his composure despite the shock evident in his eyes. "Captain Reynolds, impressive tactical display." "Basic counterinsurgency doctrine," she replied. "Divide opposing forces, isolate command elements, control the narrative." She gestured to the small device visible on her tactical vest. A live broadcast transmitter. "Speaking of which, everything you say is being recorded and transmitted to multiple secure locations." Blackwood's expression hardened. "You have no idea what you're interfering with. This goes beyond Meridian, beyond simple corporate interests." "I know exactly what I'm interfering with," Sophia countered. "Foreign-backed acquisition of strategic minerals critical to national defense, using private military contractors against American citizens on American soil." "You think too small, Captain." Blackwood shook his head. "The rare earth deposits are merely the beginning. What lies beneath this valley could shift the balance of power in ways you can't imagine. Try me. Blackwood studied her for a moment, calculating his options. The geological surveys found more than just rare Earth elements. They found isotopic anomalies consistent with something our scientists haven't seen before. Something with potential. Applications that would make nuclear technology look primitive. Sophia kept her expression neutral, though this was unexpected information. And rather than inform the proper authorities, you decided to acquire it privately. For whom? For the future, Blackwood replied. For progress unburdened by bureaucracy and politics. Some discoveries are too important to be buried in government classifications. Noble sentiments from a man who sent armed mercenaries to threaten civilians, Sophia observed dryly. Outside, the sounds of vehicles approaching at high speed drew their attention. Blackwood smiled thinly. That would be my contingency plan, Captain. Did you think I came with only the forces you've seen? Sophia checked her tactical display. Multiple vehicles were indeed approaching, but not Meridian reinforcements. Actually, she replied with the first genuine smile of the night. That would be the 7th Special Forces Group, finally breaking through whatever interference you arranged. Apparently, attempting to use military-grade EMP devices on American soil triggered some very specific national security protocols. The color drained from Blackwood's face as he recognized the distinctive sound of military helicopters now visible. On the horizon, you've lost, Mr. Blackwood, Sophia continued. Whatever you hope to acquire here will now receive the full attention of agencies with significantly more resources than Meridian. The only question remaining is how cooperative you intend to be when explaining your actions to federal prosecutors. Before he could respond, the command vehicle door opened to reveal Marcus Weller, weapon raised, only to find himself facing not just Sophia, but Sheriff Harmon and Jack Wilson, both with shotguns trained on him. "Stand down, Major," Sophia said quietly. "It's over." Weller's eyes darted between them, calculating odds with the precision of his training. Finally, seeing the approaching military vehicles, he slowly lowered his weapon. "Smart choice," Wilson commented, not lowering his shotgun. As military personnel secured the area, disarming and detaining Meridian's operators with efficient precision, Sophia maintained her position, weapon trained on Blackwood, until proper authorities took him into custody. A familiar figure approached, Colonel James Harrington, her former commanding officer, whom she hadn't seen since Ryan's funeral. "Captain Reynolds!" he greeted her formally, though his eyes held warmth and respect. "Or do you prefer Mrs. Calloway now?" "Either works, Colonel," she replied, finally holstering her weapon as military police secured Blackwood. "Though I wasn't expecting to see you personally. When we realized who was involved, certain protocols were activated," he explained. "Your husband's final mission? Let's just say it left some very high-level people owing him a debt that extended to you." Understanding dawned. Ryan's last deployment, the classified operation that had left him with career-ending injuries, must have involved something connected to what Blackwood had discovered beneath the valley. "The isotopic anomalies," she said quietly. "Ryan knew they were here." Harrington's expression confirmed her suspicion. "He chose this ranch very specifically, Sophia. When he couldn't protect this location himself anymore, he left it to me," she finished, "with everything I'd need to defend it." As dawn broke over the Nevada desert, painting the mountains gold and crimson, Sophia stood on her porch, watching. Military personnel process the detained Meridian operators. Her neighbors had emerged from their positions, gathering in small groups as federal agents took their statements. Elena approached, exhaustion and exhilaration mingling in her expression. "Is it really over?" she asked. Sophia nodded. "This phase, at least. There will be investigations, hearings, probably classified proceedings we'll never hear about. But Meridian's operation has been neutralized, and our homes safe," Sophia confirmed. Colonel Harrington assured me the valley properties will remain with their rightful owners. Whatever lies beneath will be studied by appropriate authorities, with proper compensation for access rights. Miguel joined them, eyes wide with excitement, despite having been awake for over 24 hours. Miss Calloway, they're saying you single-handedly took down a private military company. Sophia smiled, resting a hand on his shoulder. No one does anything single-handedly, Miguel. This victory belongs to everyone who stood together when it mattered. As military helicopters circled overhead and federal agents established a perimeter around the property, Sophia felt a presence beside her, not physical but undeniable. Ryan had prepared this land, knowing someday it might need defending. He had left her everything she needed to complete the mission he couldn't. For the first time since burying her husband, Sophia felt she truly understood his final gift to her, not just a home, but a purpose. A way to continue serving, even after. Leaving the battlefield behind, the Nevada sun climbed higher, burning away the morning mist, illuminating a community forever changed by standing together against impossible odds. Whatever secrets lay beneath the Calloway Ranch would now be protected properly, not exploited for private gain. And Sophia Reynolds, Calloway, widow, warrior, defender, had found her peace at last, not in running from her past, but in using every skill it had given her to protect the future her husband had died to secure. 3 months after the confrontation with Meridian's forces, the Calloway Ranch had transformed. A discreet government research facility now operated on the far eastern edge of the property, its modern buildings standing in stark contrast to the weathered ranch structures. Military personnel maintained a subtle presence, their vehicles occasionally visible on the private access road that had been constructed to minimize disruption to Sophia's daily operations. The first snow of winter dusted the Nevada mountains. As Sophia signed the final documents in her kitchen, Colonel Harrington and 2 Justice Department officials seated across from her. "That completes the access agreement, Mrs. Calloway," the senior official said, gathering the papers. "Your compensation will be deposited as arranged, and the research parameters will remain within the boundaries we've discussed." Sophia nodded, feeling a sense of completion rather than surrender. "And the other landowners?" "Similar arrangements have been made with everyone in the affected area," Harrington confirmed. "Fair compensation, minimal disruption, absolute security." After the officials departed, Harrington remained behind, removing his formal uniform jacket. As Sophia poured 2 cups of coffee, "Off the record now," he said, accepting the steaming mug. "You've done remarkably well, Sophia. Ryan would be proud." "He planned for this," she replied, looking out at the snow-touched landscape. Not the specific circumstances, perhaps, but the possibility that what lay beneath this land might someday need protecting. Harrington nodded, his expression solemn. "What we've found. It's beyond what we imagined. The isotopic material appears to be extraterrestrial in origin, likely from a meteor impact millions of years ago. Its properties could revolutionize everything from medical technology to energy production. Powerful enough that people like Blackwood would build private armies to control it," Sophia observed. "Which is precisely why it needs the protection of people like you," Harrington replied. "People who understand that some powers aren't meant to be wielded for profit or advantage." He hesitated, then reached into his briefcase, removing a sealed envelope. "This was recovered during the investigation of Meridian's headquarters. It was in Blackwood's personal safe." Sophia accepted the envelope, recognizing the handwriting immediately. "Ryan's." "How did Blackwood get this?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. "Ryan sent it to him directly, about a month before his death," Harrington explained. "It appears they had corresponded previously. Ryan knew what Meridian was searching for." Alone after Harrington's departure, Sophia finally opened the letter, her hands steady despite the emotion tightening her chest. "Sophia, if you're reading this, then what I suspected has finally come to light, and you've done exactly what I knew you would. Defended our home with the same courage and skill you showed on every mission we shared. What lies beneath our land is both miracle and potential catastrophe. During my final deployment, our team discovered similar material in a remote region we were never officially in. 3 of my men died securing a sample. The power it contains could transform humanity's future or trigger our destruction. I purchased our ranch because geological surveys indicated a larger deposit existed here, one that needed protection from those who would weaponize it. I couldn't tell you then. Classification levels prevented it, but I always knew you'd uncover the truth if it became necessary. The government will want to study it. Let them, but maintain our ownership. Be their partner, not their subject. The terms are in our safe, legal documents I prepared with contingencies for this exact scenario. What you've protected isn't just our home, but a potential turning point for humanity. This responsibility found us, Sophia, as the hardest missions always did. Everything I built here, every defense, every contingency, every hidden resource, wasn't just to protect our land, but to give you what you would need when this moment arrived. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to face it with you. Know that whatever strength you found to stand your ground came from within you. It always did. With all my love and faith, Ryan Sophia folded the letter carefully, a complex mix of emotions, washing through her, grief and pride, loss and purpose intertwined. Ryan had known what was coming and had prepared her as best he could, while respecting her enough to let her find her own way through the challenge. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Elena stood on the porch, cheeks flushed from the cold. "Town meeting's in an hour," she reminded Sophia. "Everyone's waiting for you before they start." The transformation of Coyote Springs was evident as they drove into town. Construction crews worked on several new buildings, a modern medical clinic, expanded school facilities, and infrastructure improvements funded by the government as part of their compensation package to the community. The town hall was filled beyond capacity, residents packed shoulder to shoulder, as Mayor Jenkins, formerly Old Man Jenkins, until the previous mayor's resignation following revelations of his involvement with Meridian, called the meeting to order. "Before we get to regular business," he announced, "I'd like to invite Sophia Calloway to update us on the research facility progress." As Sophia walked to the podium, she felt the community's eyes upon her, not with suspicion or fear, but with respect earned through shared struggle. These were no longer just neighbors. They were allies who had stood together against overwhelming odds. "The facility is operational as of this week," she reported. 35 local residents have been hired for support positions, with training. Programs established for technical roles as they become available. Environmental monitoring confirms no adverse effects on groundwater or surrounding ecosystems. She paused, looking out at the faces that had become so familiar during their resistance against Meridian. "What we defended together isn't just valuable because of what it's worth," she continued. "It's valuable because of what it represents. The right of communities to determine their own futures, to protect their homes and heritage against those who see only profit where we see lives and legacies." Applause rippled through the hall, genuine and heartfelt. As Sophia returned to her seat, Miguel slipped into the chair beside her, now wearing the uniform of a sheriff's deputy. Harmon's department had undergone significant changes, with the young man among several new recruits, bringing fresh integrity to local law enforcement. "Found something at the old mine shaft you might want to see," he whispered as the meeting continued. "Looks like your husband left more surprises than we thought." Later that evening, they stood in the original mine shaft Wilson had shown her months earlier. Miguel directed his flashlight to a section of wall they hadn't explored previously, revealing a metal box embedded in the rock face, marked with Ryan's distinctive insignia. A phoenix rising. "Only noticed it because of the fresh rockfall," Miguel explained. "Must have been hidden all this time." The box was sealed with a biometric lock that responded immediately to Sophia's fingerprint. Inside lay a data drive and another sealed envelope. Back at her command center, the drive revealed detailed geological surveys of the entire valley, conducted secretly over years. Ryan had mapped not just the valuable deposits, but underground water systems, structural weaknesses, and potential environmental concerns. Everything needed to ensure the research proceeded safely. The second letter was briefer than the first. For when you've weathered the storm and need to plan for the future, the battle may be won, but the mission continues. These will help you protect not just what lies beneath, but what grows above. The land was always meant to nurture, not just contain. With every challenge you face, remember, you were always the strongest of us. Our winter deepened across the valley. As Sophia integrated Ryan's additional data with the government research team, establishing stricter environmental protections and community oversight mechanisms. The confrontation with Meridian had evolved into something neither side had anticipated, a partnership between government interests, scientific advancement, and local stewardship. On Christmas Eve, Sophia hosted a gathering at her ranch for those who had stood with her during the conflict. The Rodriguez family brought traditional foods, Elena's father played guitar, and Wilson's grandchildren ran excitedly through the house Ryan had built, their laughter a reminder of why the struggle had mattered. Standing on her porch as snow fell gently across the desert landscape that had become her battleground, and then her legacy, Sophia felt Ryan's presence more strongly than she had since losing him, not as a ghost or memory, but as a continuing force through the preparations he'd made, the community he'd chosen, and the purpose he'd helped her rediscover. The mysterious material beneath her land might change the world someday. The government facility might make discoveries beyond current imagination, but looking at the people gathered in her home, people who had risked everything to stand beside a widow they barely knew against overwhelming force, Sophia understood that the most valuable resource had never been underground at all. It had been the courage of ordinary people choosing to defend something greater than themselves. As midnight approached, Miguel joined her on the porch, offering a steaming mug of cider. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked quietly. "Meridian or someone like them?" Sophia considered the question, looking out at the security systems now seamlessly integrated with her own defensive measures. Seen and unseen. Government and private, creating a protection far beyond what any corporate force could challenge. "Someone might try," she acknowledged. "Power attracts those who would abuse it, always has." "And if they do?" Miguel pressed. Sophia smiled, genuine warmth reaching her eyes, as she raised her mug in a small toast toward the starlit sky where she felt Ryan watching. "Then they'll learn the same lesson as Blackwood," she replied, "that some legacies are built to endure, some land is meant to be defended, and some widows are anything but defenseless." The desert night wrapped around them, peaceful now but ever vigilant, much like the woman who had transformed from grieving widow to community guardian, carrying forward a mission larger than herself while honoring the love that had prepared her for this unexpected purpose. Not an ending but a continuation, not victory but stewardship, not just survival but legacy. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.